Hey love, what's up? Welcome to Confidently Uncomfortable. I'm your host Jago, health and lifestyle coach and not so regal confidence queen. Coming at you with the real, the raw, and of course, the uncomfortable. My mission is to show you that to be confident, it has absolutely nothing to do with being perfect or having it all together, and everything to do with you getting uncomfortable and pushing your limits. Thanks for joining me. Let's dive in. I am so excited to talk to you guys about this topic, self-care and confidence. So I'm all about confidence, you know that, and I'm also a huge fan of self-care and just diving in, giving yourself some TLC. So today we're going to talk about what is self-care, why does it even matter? I'm going to give you guys a little activity and also talk about how self-love is that bridge to confidence. So self-care to self-love and then getting to that feeling really freaking confident in your skin. I'm going to talk all about that. We'll dive into confidence at the end, and then I'll give you guys a little challenge. So actually reaching out to you from Mexico, which is pretty exciting. Little lifetime update. So life update, my husband just finished up his first year of PA school. So he's not done yet. We're not out of the woodworks yet. But to celebrate, I surprised him with a trip and we took off on last Friday to Mexico and we were going to be in Cancun for a week. And I thought, what a perfect time to talk about self-care because this was a very intentional trip for me. And I'll talk more about why that is, but I'll dive in a little more about my own seasonal depression, kind of things I've worked through, and then some realizations I've come to and how I've really planned for that in my life because I've learned a lot more about who I am, how I function best, and what I need to do in order to show up for myself as my best self every freaking day. So the first thing I want to remind you is self-care is not just face masks and bath bombs, okay? Like you see it all the time, hashtag self-care, and someone's like showing you their bath bomb fizzy up. I'm probably guilty of this stuff, but I'm just saying that that's not the be all end all. Can that be a part of self-care? Hell yeah. I love a nice bath. I use Epsom salts with lavender. I love some candles. Like love it. Love it. If that's your jam, keep doing it. But I want to remind you that self-care is really about taking the time in your crazy schedule and checking in with you. So whatever that means for you, it's that like me time check-in, making sure all's good in the hood and you are good to go to really continue to thrive as you. So when it comes to self-care, it doesn't have to cost you money. It's just really about taking that time, like I said, for you. It's going to help you be more successful with your fitness goals. It's going to help you be more successful with your relationships, more successful at your job, and just all other avenues of your life. I think a lot of times as women, we feel like it's selfish to take care of ourselves and take a step away, especially if we're in the role of like a mother or if we're in the role of a wife or if we're in a specific role in our co-working space where we feel like we can't say, hey, I got to take a time out. Like, I got to put myself in a better position. Like, we feel like that is a sign of like weakness or that we're not doing our job to its full capacity. But the truth is, once you start taking care of yourself and really making that time for you, you are able to pour into those other relationships and the other facets of what makes up who you are so much better in such a stronger way. I mean, you've heard the saying like, fill up your cup. And then once you filled up your cup to the full capacity, that's going to spill into other people's aspects. You're able to pour into other people. So I was afraid to do that for so long. And now I'm like, whew, I'm a self-care queen. I still need to do better about it, but I'm really working towards it. And that's why I'm in Mexico right now. But quote I want to read with you is self-care is about self-care being self-love. And it's by Anna Taylor. I came across it and I love it. I have it written out in my room and I'm just such a fan. So here it goes. Love yourself enough to set boundaries. Your time and energy are precious. You get to choose how you use it. You teach people how to treat you by accepting what you will and won't accept. All right? You get to choose how you use it. You teach people how to treat you by deciding what you will and won't accept. Whew. Mic drop. I'm not going to drop my mic because it's too damn expensive, but mic drop. How crazy is that? I didn't realize that for so long that like I'm the one deciding how other people treat me. right? I always was in this self-deprecating, like, woe is me. No, like, why am I being treated this way? Why am I always getting stepped on? Why are my boundaries never listened to and always crossed? And I'm always spreading myself too thin. Guess what? It started with me. I was the one who had to make that decision to choose where I spent my time and energy. I was the one who had to make that decision to choose who I do and don't pour my time into. I had to choose what my boundaries were, set them, and stick to them, right? I think a lot of times we feel like we're so out of control and we can't make those choices for ourselves, but the truth is we need to start, or your world as you know it or as you want it to be is going to crumble. And so taking care of yourself and setting those boundaries are huge. So if you have not yet listened to my boundary podcast, I'll put in the show notes of which one it is, but it is very, very important for you, especially this time of year around the holidays or whenever it is that you're listening to this. But you need to set some boundaries and stick to them. And that is a form of self-love. And again, it's not selfish. You are able to show up in such a better way when you are taking that time for yourself. The thing is, if you're going into like, you have these goals and you're like, I only listen to you because I'm into weight loss or I'm into fitness and why does this whole self-love, self-care thing even matter? I'm just here to lose weight. Like, the truth is, if you do not start setting standards of self-care for yourself, you are going to get lost in the process. You're going to get lost in the sauce. You are not going to know why you're doing what you're doing anyways. You're just going to be like, I just did it because I read it on Pinterest and I think it's the right thing to do. So I'm going to start doing bath bombs. Like, that's not going to help you. So you need to figure out what it is that you need. So when you're in, let's just say, for example, when you're in a weight loss journey or in a fitness journey and things get tough, when you're in life and things get tough, you can overcome the obstacles through the self-discipline you've set up, the routines you've set up, and the self-care practices that you've implemented from the beginning. So implementing those things from the start are what's going to keep you sane and stable when shit hits the fan, because it will. It's going to. It's inevitable. So you're not going to be in this picture perfect world where no problems happen and you're able to really focus on your health and yourself and all your goals. That's not going to happen in 2020. It didn't happen in 2019. So I need you to go into it with setting some standards for yourself, setting some non-negotiables of how are you going to take care of yourself? How are you going to show yourself love? That is where success lies. It lies in the actions you take regardless of the circumstances, regardless of all the craziness that's going on in your life, because that's not going to slow down. It's funny because you probably in the past when you were in school or doing something, you thought, all right, well, when school's over, I'll focus back on my health. I'll focus back on myself. And then, I don't know, you got married and then you got married and or your work happened and that got crazy. And you said, okay, like after this project with work or after this wedding, like then I'll focus on my health. And guess what? Then something else happened, whether you gave birth to a new project or you gave birth to an actual literal child, that stuff hit the fan and it's beautiful and it's wonderful and it's amazing, crazy chaos. But if you don't have those practices and that self-discipline of taking care of you set up ahead of time, it is going to be a struggle with your mental health, with your physical health, with your spiritual health. All those things start to crumble and I don't want that for you. So let's talk about self-care. So there are a lot of different types of self-care. I really like to focus on the mind, body, and soul aspect. All of those pieces are equally important, very, very, very super important to focus on the mind. So what I mean by like your mental self-care is mental and emotional. So that comes to stress management, personal development, showing yourself love and grace, really having a body positive and just like positive self-talk in general and not talking down to yourself, being able to journal and write out your thoughts, practicing gratitude every single morning, establishing routine. All of those things are different ways to take care of your emotional and mental health. So whatever works best for you. For me, I practice gratitude, I journal, and I'm all about positive self-talk. If a negative thought or a negative word comes out of my mouth, I stop it mid-sentence and say, nope, Jordan, you know better than that. Release it. Don't feel bad. Don't feel guilty. Don't feel angry, but just say, who is telling you this? Is this true or is this a lie you're telling yourself? And by doing that with my negative self-talk, I flip it and I'm like, back to reality. That's not real. That is a lie I'm telling myself because I'm in a negative state. I need to get back into that self-care. That's my biggest recommendation. So that's with mental health. Let's talk about some self care for the body. So, physical self care is not just going to the gym, that's a part of it, but sleep is super important. Absolutely. Like, so much growth happens mentally and physically in your sleep. You need to get sleep. If you're not getting enough sleep, get some more sleep. If you don't get good sleep, get better about your routine, having a shutdown, and we'll get more into routine later, but sleep for sure. Focusing on stretching is a great way to take care of your physical body, whether that's yoga or just setting your timer 15 minutes and stretching before you go to bed. Going on more walks and being outside is a great way to be physical and take care of your body. Eating whole foods, that's a big one for me. Whenever I'm feeling a little bit down or really struggling, I ask myself, well, what have I been eating? Have I been eating like more processed stuff or things that don't always make me feel so good? And if that's the case, I get back into eating more whole foods and drinking more water, and that really helps me physically, mentally, emotionally, everything. So, focusing on that. Yoga is part of stretching. Going to the gym is a part of taking care of your body. You can do it at the gym, you can do it at home, but getting that movement and getting stronger, that is really good for taking care of yourself. Sex is great too. You knew I was going to mention this. Sorry, mom. I know you're listening to this one because I didn't tell you not to, but that's a big part of your physical health, whether it's sex with your partner or with yourself. It's super important. So sorry if that's TMI for you, but it's true. You need to take care of yourself, and that's a part of your physical health. Rest. I already said sleep, but rest is important too. So if that means slowing down, if that means taking a breather out of what your responsibilities are, you can do that. You can say no to more things. You can say yes to more things, but you can say no to some of those social outings if you need a little break. That's okay. So that's for the body and physical self-care. Finally, the soul. Whew, this one's a good one. So social and personal self-care is super important. It's being social as well as setting boundaries. So I'm going to go through all these and kind of dive into each one a little bit more. So setting boundaries, I talked about them already, but you need to set some boundaries for yourself and figure out, what do I need? What boundaries do I need to have for myself to be able to show up in my best, like at my very best? So boundaries that you're setting for other people with relationships are important, but then also for yourself. So if that means that, as a boundary, you need to have at least one day that's like me time where you don't really talk to anyone, then that's good. If you know that you thrive when you have a bedtime boundary, so like a bedtime every single night, that's what you do. If you know that you do very well in the morning, if you spend some time with yourself first, that's setting a boundary and a standard for you. And then, of course, with relationships, if you know there are certain things you need to have off topic or not talk about, or work boundaries, whatever that is, like create that. Another aspect of social self-care is having a support system set up. So when you are going through something, like, know that you are not alone, right? And you shouldn't have to go through it alone. You're not stronger. You don't get a medal. You don't get a badge of honor for getting through this problem that you're working through by yourself. Okay. So don't feel like you can't reach out to someone, whether that's a therapist or whether that's a family member, friend, like your partner, your best friend, whatever, like reach out, because those support systems are crucial. Because the thing is you need that connection. That is such a part of self-care. And I don't think we recognize that enough, because we think that it's important to be super independent. And yes, I want you to feel independent and confident, but just because you feel like you need to lean on someone at time to time does not make you weak. It does not make you less confident of a person. It makes you strong. I truly believe that there's strength in vulnerability. And I think that having those support systems where you can be truly vulnerable with them are amazing. So if you don't have those now, really seek those in the new year. Social media detox is big for me as far as a personal self-care. Every once in a while, I need to take a full-on break from all of it. There's so much beauty to social media and connection from it all. But then a lot of times, if you recognize that you're feeling less than, or you're comparing yourself to other people, or you're stuck, you're just spending a lot of your time on a phone or in a screen, giving yourself a detox to be completely off. And then also setting a boundary for yourself, or setting a rule of like, I'm not going to be on it after 9 p.m. or whatever that is for you. So that's a big one with self-care. Communication is big too. So being able to communicate with your relationships, with your partner, with whoever you're spending most of your time with, you need to be able to communicate openly, and it needs to be in a way out of love. So instead of going into it feeling negative or feeling like anything they say is like a jab at you, come at it in a way of like, okay, this person is coming to me and I want to come to them, and we're going to be very open and honest. And I think that there's so much power in being able to fully communicate with someone how you're feeling without feeling judged. So give that person that same courtesy that you would want them to give you, and vice versa. So communication is huge for self-care. Spending time together. So whoever that is, your people, make that time for yourself, for that relationship. That one's huge for me. And having a hobby is a big one too. So if you feel like all you do is wake up, eat, sleep, go to work, whatever that order of things are, find something that brings you joy that maybe doesn't have an agenda, right? Like you might really like knitting, which I don't have the brain capacity for that, but you might really like knitting, or you might really like nature walks, or I'm making up really random stuff right now. Give me some hobbies and let me know what they are. But that can be really, really helpful. For me, I'm like really into scrapbooking and taking pictures that are not of myself, because sometimes it's hard to constantly have to see myself on Instagram. So I like to take pictures of nature and things like that. So having a hobby like that is super important. Figure out what it is for you. And overall, just with self-care of the soul, like knowing you, right? Like knowing your identity and honoring your highest self. So I'm going to get into this. I know it's a little woo-woo, but I'm going to touch on it anyways. Knowing yourself is very important, because it is very easy to get stuck thinking that our career or our job title defines us, or our position as a mother or as a wife defines us. And that is the only factor that's your identity, and it's how you identify yourself. And when someone says, hey, like, describe yourself, who are you? And you're like, oh, well, I'm a mother, or I'm a manager of this company, or whatever that is. But the truth is that is not your identity. Okay. It's who you are. It's who your soul is beyond where you're at on this earth. Like, what makes up you? Okay. And if you've never taken the time to do that, really want to challenge you to do this, because it's very, very cathartic. It's very important for you going forward to know where you've been and know who you are and know what makes up you. So take your time with that. And that's a great way to honor your highest self. Another way to honor your highest self is when you are doing self-care, ask yourself, what does my highest self need? So if I want to show up as this amazing, like whatever this person is, when you imagine like your best self, like how do I need to treat that person? And that is what you're going to do. Right? That's how you're going to take care of yourself. So ask yourself those questions. The other aspect of self-care is treat yourself. If you do not watch Parks and Rec, please go watch it. It's an amazing show on Netflix. But treating yourself is important. So this is not out of like gluttony. This is not out of like feeling like, oh, well, I deserve this, or like, oh, I've earned this food. It's bigger than that. This is about daily, weekly, and seasonal self-care. Okay. So the daily aspect of self-care and taking care of yourself, giving yourself TLC, is creating daily routines and rituals that help you show up for yourself and your goals each and every day, no matter what's going on around you. Right. So that's anything when it comes to like, if your morning gratitude is a piece of that, like anything that you need to do every single day to feel on top of the world, that is your daily self-care routine and ritual. So I have all my clients create a ideal routine. We work through it, their morning routine, their evening routine, and setting that up. Oh my gosh, it's a game changer with their results, with their goals and their fitness and their lifestyle changes. And it all has to do with those routines and sticking to them, right? Another aspect of treating yourself is weekly self-care. So weekly self-care activities where you need to do them weekly to take care of yourself and ensure success. So meal prep is actually a form of weekly self-care for me. So I know that I am less stressed when I meal prep for the week. I am more like prepared. I feel better. I feel confident. I'm hitting my goals with fitness and lifestyle by doing that. So that is my form of self-care weekly. I also do like a weekly planning session where I sit down and I plan out what my week is going to look like. That's a good thing. I know some people that do weekly yoga classes, like anything that you know helps you with your weekly, like ending your week, is awesome. So definitely recommend it. And then finally, there's seasonal self-care. This one's huge. And the reason I'm talking about this now is because I'm currently practicing seasonal self-care by being in Mexico. So our moods may vary depending on different times of the year, right? So holidays might be a busy season at work or just in life with families and traveling. And planning for this by establishing seasonal self-care is huge. So seasonal self-care does not just have to be like going on a vacation. It does not have to be that. It might mean that you do a staycation and you decide to stay at home and take some time for you, and you do this before a crazy quarter at work, and you take some time to really like figure out your vision. Like I do a vision map or something. I do like dream retreats like this for work once a year, and that really helps me like set up myself for success, feel really good about where I'm going, and have that time to take away from everything else that can distract me and focus on that. Another form of seasonal self-care is freaking doctor's appointments. Like, listen, we're adults now. We need to make sure we're taking care of ourselves and we're getting those weekly checkups. Go get your mammogram. Go get all of your gynecologist stuff, like not OBGYN yet, but your gynecologist stuff. And go get a freaking doctor. If you've not gotten primary care doctor, go get your teeth checked. I know I'm saying a lot of these, but it's because I'm telling myself I need to go get half of these done. But those are really important seasonal self-care. It varies depending on what you need, what your needs are. Another form of it could be like you love doing spring cleaning. That might be every spring, like you love getting and donating things because you feel great and it starts fresh. Like boom, that's in there. Make time for it. For me, like for the seasonal stuff, like my mood, I struggle with anxiety and depression in general, but I know that around this time of year when I'm not out in the sun regularly and when I'm having to do a lot of traveling and trips that are not my own accord, so it's like I'm having to be on other people's agendas when it comes with family and all that crazy stuff, and I struggle with that a lot of times, and it leads me to being down on myself. It leads me to not wanting to do anything. It leads me to honestly a road to struggling with depression, and it sucks. And I've dealt with it to like in a negative way where I just went on the other end of things, and now I've chosen to be more proactive with it. So I knew that I was going to need to go somewhere warm. So I budgeted a trip for us early on for us to go to Mexico. I have a client who is a travel agent, and she hooked us up and helped me make that happen. And that's not necessarily like what everyone needs to do, but it is something that when I went into this field of work, I knew that that was something I was going to prioritize. I knew that that was where I was going to allot part of our budget to was self-care, and that was a piece of it. So whatever that is for you, it might be just going hiking. It might be going like on a trip with your partner. It might be going on a girls trip because you know it's needed. Literally whatever it is that you need, like setting time for that and making it a point. Because the truth is, if you don't make time for this seasonal self-care, the year is just going to flash by, right? Like think about earlier in January of this past year. Did you tell yourself like, oh, I want to travel more, or I want to see the world, or I want to start a hobby, or I want to start a club, or I want to do this, read books more, or whatever that was for you. And then it still felt like you weren't making the time to do that. And I don't do this in a way of making you feel guilty or bad, but I want you to know that you putting in the time and you choosing to make this a priority is how you can make it happen. So figure out what those daily, weekly, and seasonal self-care things are for you and make them happen. So I'm here to help you, tell you it's possible. And I've been in all different income streams of things. So like I've been to the point where I needed to find self-care, and I was in college and I had no money and I still made it work. It just involved me getting outside and being with nature and getting away from all of the craziness. It had me disconnecting and getting off the grid for a little bit. So everyone's self-care is different. Figure out what it is for you in this time of your life, and make it happen. So taking care of yourself is huge. And then loving yourself is the final piece of that self-care. So self-care, you're doing it because you know it's good for you. Self-love, we're like, it feels selfish. Like I feel guilty when I'm thinking about myself before others. And the truth is that self-love is the bridge between self-care and confidence. Okay. So what that means is self-love is not selfish. The truth is, if we don't take the time to love ourselves, we're not going to be able to fully let love in from others, right? If we don't know why we're amazing, why we're awesome, why we should love ourselves in general, it's going to be really hard for us to receive love. Like, if you struggle right now to receive compliments, if you get like super awkward and your like cheeks get red when someone compliments you, that's like just a tip of the iceberg of where you need to go with that self-love. Like, I want you to be open and comfortable with getting complimented and being confident in yourself, so then you can receive that love in an even deeper way. Releasing that guilt is a huge part of that. So I want you to work towards that if you're struggling to love yourself, but I don't want you to think that it's just going to snap your fingers and happen. I've talked about that, but starting with that self-care is a big part of it, and it leads to self-love and confidence. So I hope that this helped today. If you are like me and you do struggle with seasonal affective disorder, where you start to feel pretty down around this time of year, or let's say after the holidays, you start to feel a lull, or you're feeling pulled in multiple directions, or you're really struggling with comparing where you're at right now and what other people are doing for the holidays. Like, I want to remind you that it's okay if you are struggling. It's okay if you are working through some of your just things that you're going through right now. It's okay to be working through something, but remind yourself, like, you are going to get through this, right? You are not stuck. This is not something where you are completely stuck where you're at. You're working through something. And what I always tell people and what I tell myself is, when you're working through something, you have to push through it, right? And when you're pushing, this is just like weightlifting. When you're pushing against something that's really hard, guess what? It makes you stronger. So the longer you're pushing, the longer you're working through it, the stronger you're going to be out on the other end. So if you're struggling with anything, I just want to remind you, you're not alone, and I love you. And that's all I have to say about that. But I want to challenge you guys to do something this week that is a little bit selfish, that's meant to take care of just you. And I would love to hear what you do. So share your little hashtag treat yourself events that you do, whether it's at home or out or whatever it is. I want to know. I want you to take care of yourself, and go ahead and tag me in it. So screenshot this episode, share it, and if you want to commit to doing something, then let me know. Shoot me a message if you have questions about any of this, whatever helped, didn't help. If you want to hear more about anything I spoke on, I would love to know, because I'm working on topics for next year, and I definitely want to make sure that I get everything covered that you guys want, because I'm here to serve you guys. So have a great day. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks again for listening to Confidently Uncomfortable. I love being able to connect with you here, and honestly, don't want it to end. So head over to my Facebook group, Body Confident Blueprint, and be sure to follow me on Insta at JGoFitLife. Also, if you're ready to get real confidently uncomfortable, go leave this podcast a 5-star review and email me the review screenshot, support@jgofit360.com, for a chance to win a free 30-minute fitness audit and goal setting session. I appreciate your support. See you next time.